Western Plaguelands encompass the toxic, rocky foothills in what was once the kingdom of Lordaeron. The agricultural heart of the north has become a dark hellscape of horror, ruin, and endless war. The patchwork of farmlands have decayed, spewing thick venom into the sky. The trees are colorless, their bark dry and flaking in the mist. Beasts lurk amongst the boughs, sickly and thirsting for living flesh. Befouled elementals flood putrid tunnels, and all throughout, noxious corpses of undead shamble. The cauldron fields and surrounding wilds are a grim reminder of the plague's reach. These vast basins are a mockery of the old farmlands, boiling with pestilence. The Scourge maintain control through necromancers, who oversee the plague cauldrons, massive iron vats that spew corruption into the soil and air. Each stead is its own stronghold, guarded by ghouls and stitched monstrosities. The horror here is not accidental. It is engineered. The cauldron fields are the design of Hearthglen the Unclean, the Scourge's greatest scientist and necromancer, whose methods of infection are precise and effective. Hearthglen saw the Plaguelands not as a tragedy, but as an experiment on a continental scale. The cauldrons function as his instruments, pressure chambers of plague gas, designed to seep into the ground and corrupt the natural order at its roots. Each cauldron represents a different stage in his process. One brews miasma for airborne spread. Another refines its use for the Scourge's weaponry. The creatures that patrol these sites, rotting zombies, skeletal overseers, and wailing phantoms, these are more than mere guards. They are the test subjects, adapted to thrive where no living thing should endure. To walk the cauldron fields is to witness a laboratory without walls, where every hill, stream, and corpse is a specimen. Hearthglen's legacy remains etched into the land, a triumph of science, divorced from morality. He has successfully created a place where death is not a failure of life, but its new intended state. The remnants of Lordaeron's human population have holed up in Hearthglen, loyal to the Scarlet Crusade. Ironically, the town was able to fend off the Scourge in the Third War due to the efforts of Prince Arthas Menethil prior to his corruption into a Death Knight, as well as Uther the Lightbringer, the first of the paladins who founded the Knights of the Silver Hand. Another of its founding members, Tyrion Fordring, was the regional governor of Hearthglen prior to the Third War, though by the events of the plague, he had been excommunicated from his position, leaving his son Talon to hold the title as the town was converted to a Crusader castle. Under Talon's command, the Crusade enforces strict order in and around the keep. Sickly trees are culled, while the healthy are harvested for timber. Farms remain under endless watch, as are the farmers, as even a single infected could mean total outbreak. Furthermore, not a single outsider is tolerated in Hearthglen, and intruders are killed on sight, regardless of alliance or affiliation. The Crusade believes any and all outsiders are potential carriers of the disease and must be destroyed. And while Hearthglen remains the exception to the Scourge's complete dominance over humanity, others gather still, drawn from great distances and conscripted to fight against the undead. Another faction founded in the ashes of the Silver Hand, the Argent Dawn, keeps its distance around the edges of the Western Plaguelands. They gather in the shadows of Uther's tomb at Chillwind Camp, and at the Bulwark, at the border of Tirisfal Glades. The Argent Dawn stays neutral with Alliance and Horde, believing a concerted effort by all parties is necessary to fight the Scourge. Members are sworn to a cause that transcends allegiance. They employ holy relics as advanced weaponry, infuse alchemical recipes with righteous reagents. Hallowed incantations heal the spirit of the wounded world. The Argent Dawn represents the region's last coordinated defense, their light flickering dimly against the shadow of undeath. Central to the Western Plaguelands is Andorhal, the heart of the disaster. Here the plague began. Disguised in simple grain shipments, Andorhal was ground zero for downfall. Silos that once fed a kingdom became an apocalyptic catalyst, spreading plague across the land. As the civilian population was scoured by the disease, townsfolk buried their own, and by nightfall, the graves had been split open. The plague consumed the living and reanimated the dead, turning the rhythms of daily life into a cycle of horror. Now, Andorhal is frozen in ruin. The Scourge maintain their hold, continuing the work that began here. Under Araj the Summoner, the plague is refined with temporal magic and distributed to the cauldrons across the western fields. The city's cobbled streets are silent, yet choking in a sea of undead. The bell tower looms above, its toll long since replaced by the hum of unholy magic. Even the air is hostile, thick with decay, ringing with the faint wails of distant ghosts lamenting their passage. For the Argent Dawn stationed nearby, Andorhal is not merely a battlefield. It is a grim reminder of how civilization itself can be undone. Death is the order here, issued, obeyed, and repeated eternally, without pause. The Western Plaguelands are the inflexible front line against death. Forces are gathered only to be ground to mulch, and even when territory is taken, nothing is restored. Every field, every hill, every silent ruin bears testimony to a kingdom's death. Even time falters. Seasons no longer turn. Crops will never regrow. The land is unable and unwilling to recover. It is difficult to look upon the Western Plaguelands and still believe in redemption. The bones of civilization barely pierce through the layers of rancid earth, decorating the land's cadaver. The plague has stripped meaning from structure, as it has life from the living. In this war, the Western Plaguelands itself has chosen a side.